Welcome back to the BTS Happy Hour podcast. I'm your host, Andrea. With me as always is Morgan.
Hey, what's up?
On January 6th, Big Hit Music confirmed with media outlets that plans for BTS to fly to the US have been canceled. Earlier, on January 5th, the Recording Academy announced that the 64th Grammy Awards were postponed once again due to the spread of COVID-19 Omicron variant. Initially, the Grammys were going to take place on January 31st at Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles. Big Hit said that BTS was planning to go, but then now that they heard that it was postponed, they're not going to go. So I'm surprised to even hear that they were going to go because they were just in the US and got back not that long ago, and they were just planning to go back out again for the Grammys.
Yeah, why not? It's just a plane ride.
Yeah, but I think they still have all these quarantines and things that have to happen when you go to a different country and, you know, all the logistics of it. I mean, they couldn't have stayed continuously. That would have been like a pretty long time, but I'm just surprised they were willing to come back so soon.
I'm not. It's the Grammys. They hope to win one.
Yeah, they are nominated for Best Pop Duo or Group Performance, and, you know, hopefully they win that. I don't know with the Grammys how it works anymore. It kind of seems rigged or whatever, but so I don't know if it's even worth it for them to go because they might not even win, or they'll be asked to perform and, you know, might not be worth it for them. And they haven't even been given not BTS, but just overall the Grammys haven't said when they are doing it, so we have no idea when they're actually going to give out these awards.
I think it's good they're not going because I don't think they're going to win one.
I do think that I don't have any confidence in the Grammys anymore. I don't think they award deserving people all the time. So, yeah.
They didn't even win for Dynamite, so what do you expect?
Yeah, I mean, that was their biggest song. Like, if they were going to win for anything, it should have been that.
They're not. They shouldn't go. They should not protest, but they should just dismiss its importance. How relevant is it?
Yeah.
It's not relevant anymore.
Their success is many other things, many other areas. The Grammys, they haven't given a date of when that is, and we don't know BTS's plans for this year, but I'm sure that they are locking down tour dates and all that stuff, and some very firm things like album releases and promotion. So I think whenever they say it is, they probably can't go anyway because of, you know, they're probably going to have a pretty full schedule once they're back from their vacation.
What categories are they even nominated for?
Just Best Pop Duo or Group Performance.
That's insulting. There's no need to go. It's just, that's not a major category.
Yeah. And it's like, that's the bare minimum that they could have been nominated for.
Yeah.
They submitted for a bunch of other categories.
So I just feel like even in that, the Grammys are telegraphing that they're not going to get one. You know, it's insulting. They shouldn't go to this thing anymore.
Yeah. And I think, you know, that's probably what will end up happening just because of scheduling, and maybe they're too classy to say, you know, like the way, I'm not saying that it was wrong, but, you know, the way The Weeknd or Eminem or Drake or whoever, when they say, okay, these award shows are garbage and don't go to them, they just award the favorites. I mean, BTS would never come out and say that, but maybe just in not going, that message might be sent, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just surprised that the Grammys are postponed because that was going to be in January in LA, but the Super Bowl is still happening. It's going to be in February, so it just doesn't seem to be tons of consistency there. I mean, I know it's different people deciding these things, but it's like, okay, is it a big threat or is it not a big threat, the Omicron?
Well, when's it postponed? Didn't say, right?
Yeah, but it would have been on January 31st. But the Super Bowl is on February 13th, and that's still happening.
Well, I'm assuming it's going to be in February. It is going to be in February.
Oh, you think they'll just put it off by a month or so?
Well, yeah. I mean, the other option is for it to be more than a month, which I don't think is reasonable.
Yeah, I think last time they did it like 2 months later.
Wow, I don't know. I don't think so.
But I don't know why they don't just do it and just say, like, okay, everybody who goes into the arena needs to have a vaccine and a mask on and, you know, all that stuff. Like, I don't know why that would be not doable, but, you know, Crypto.com Arena. So that's Staples Center. And maybe they're trying to be more careful because that's all indoors versus like SoFi, which is I mean, I guess that has a roof, but it's kind of outdoors.
SoFi
Yeah.
is not really out there. I mean, it has an opening.
Yeah, it's sort of outdoors. But Staples Center,
It's indoors.
Crypto.com is definitely closed inside, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe that's what the difference is. So we'll see what happens with the Grammys if BTS decides to go whenever it is and if they win anything, which we don't think they will because Grammys are rigged.
I don't think they're rigged. I think that the voter base is the voter base. No, couldn't say it's a bunch of old people, but I'm not sure it's that. They just have their preferences.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they're coming off of it to embrace K-pop. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I thought maybe they were, but it looks like they're not. They're still sticking with, whoever they like, whoever is popular in the U.S. On January 13th, the organization Beagle Rescue Network made a post about receiving a donation from Jin from BTS. And they thanked him in this posting and attached some pictures of what he donated. And in March 2021, BTS was on the variety show You Quiz on the Block, and Jin had won the money prize on that show. And so this is what he spent his money on. He donated it to this Beagle Rescue Network. And the mission of the Beagle Rescue Network is that they save beagles from animal testing and raising awareness against it. And it says beagles are often used for animal testing because of their reputation as a breed of dogs that is docile and forgiving. So we know that all the members of BTS often donate to charities. So I'm not bringing this up to say Jin's cause is like better than anybody else. When they help children with school supplies or they donate money to feed needy families or anything like that. I just wanted to highlight this cause because I think there needs to be more pressure on companies to stop doing this because there really isn't a need to do animal testing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, outside of testing medicines for humans and like cures, I don't really see a reason. Like if you're a makeup company or something, it's like, what is the point of testing on animals? Like today's technology, they should be able to figure out other ways to find out if, is this safe for humans or not? Like use computers or something or use other kinds of testing methods. So I just thought, okay, that was a really good charity that he picked because, these beagles that get tested on, they're traumatized and then they have to be rescued and then rehomed to people. And so it's pretty sad that still happens in this day and age, that basically torturing animals just to get products out there on the market safely. And it's like, that shouldn't be necessary.
Well, I'm not going to say it's not necessary because, I'm not a researcher, right? There's some testing that can only happen on animals. Mm-hmm. Like it can't be computer modeled. There was recently a big story about the U.S. paid like a company to test on beagles. It's pretty gruesome. So, but it's very difficult to say something's not necessary.
Yeah, it did remind me of that story, and I was like, what was even the point of that study to test if sandflies will eat their face if they're just locked in with the beagle? It's like, why are we testing that?
I didn't look into why they were doing that, but I don't know. Could have been for medical purposes. It could have been for just makeup. I don't know how that would be related to makeup, but there's a long history of animal testing. I think it's worthy to try to reduce the amount of animal testing we do, but is it realistic to get it to zero? I'm not sure.
Right. That would be difficult because I think, and this is why companies and the government even resort to animal testing so easily, is because that is the most obvious way to test something. You can't test it on humans. Like, oh, we're testing if this thing is fatal.
Right.
Well, you can't really do that on humans, so what's the next best option? And, it's like animals, they don't really have rights. It's just like the way it works is you just purchase animals and then you can do, I mean, you can't just do whatever. You still have to.
Well, there's still laws.
Yeah, you have to follow laws. You have to like justify like what you're doing, but you know, it's still done, and probably some of this stuff like doesn't need to be done. And I mean, all you can do is just be vocal about it. And I think with makeup and like beauty products, at least in that area, a lot of consumers highlight, you know, cruelty-free products. So I think in that area, yes, that's really reducing the number of cosmetics companies that do animal testing. So I guess we just need to figure out what other industries still do it and pressure them somehow, even though it's like gigantic corporations still. you
can speak with your dollars, you can let the market determine this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't purchase these products if you think it's frivolous and it's not necessary, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, obviously, if it is necessary, the market will speak as well. Like if they came out with a cure for cancer and they said, well, we tested on a bunch of animals, I think people would still buy it anyway. So the market would say, yeah, we're fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we feel like it's worthwhile to cure cancer if you're going to test on a bunch of animals. So the market will determine whether or not it's justified.
Yeah, and then there's also that situation like World War II and like before that, they did a lot of like unethical testing on people to get, you know, whatever products we use a lot today. And then, you know, we're not saying, oh, well, I'm not going to use that medicine because of how they got to it, you know? Like, we know it happened. It was just like, oh, okay, well, that's unfortunate that, you know, humans were tested unethically.
Well, they're not going to revert to, it's not like they'll revert to that.
Yeah.
If they can't test on animals, they'll just go back to people. That's not how it's going to work. But it's good that he rescues them, you know?
Yeah, I think Jin.
I mean, I personally like animals more than people, so I think it is a better charity. Sorry, I don't like people all that much, so helping them is fine, but it doesn't really move me that much.
Yeah, and I think the animals, they can't help themselves, so it's up to people to be charitable and help them out, especially in this kind of situation where they were tested in a lab somewhere. They had no control over that. On December 31st, BTS announced an artist-made collection of merchandise which would be released. And each collection includes 1 or 2 pieces designed by each of the members specifically for ARMY to be released throughout January 2022. And we've been seeing videos posted on Weverse and VLive for each collection. So they have like one video where they present the product. It's kind of like a QVC style presentation. And then they have a making of video where it shows each member going through the whole process of creating their items and making design decisions. Mm-hmm. And I watched all the videos, so I know what happened, but I know that you've at least looked over the products to see what they designed. So I thought we could evaluate what they came up with. Jin was the first one released, and his was Good Day and Bad Day pajamas and pillows. So the concept of that is that if you were good that day, you could wear these pajamas that have an angel pattern on it, and if you were bad that day, you could wear these other pajamas that have the devil on it. So I was like, oh, that's an interesting concept. It's like, what constitutes being bad, though? It's like, I didn't murder anyone today, so I'm going to wear the angel pajamas. And then he created the pillow to go with it with the same concept. And he was like really, in the making of video, specific about the kind of pillow. He's like, it has to be this shape, and it has to be memory foam, and it has to be like this firm. So I was like, okay, he really knows his pillows. And I know, like, I have a very specific pillow. It actually looks just like that pillow, the shape of it. Because I think that's the best ergonomically for a neck if you don't have neck problems. But yeah, so I thought he picked a really good pillow design, number one. And then I think the pajamas, that was like a good idea. Like, I wouldn't have thought of that. Like, if you were saying, like, oh, okay, BTS is going to design some stuff, I would have thought it would have just been, like, streetwear or something. So I thought that was a good selection, and it's something, like, anybody could wear.
I think it's weird that they have these products.
Do you think they should just let the designers?
I don't know what the point of it is. I think that they should just tell people to give them money. No, I'm serious. They should just have like how like a lot of people have like a Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the goal of it is to make money, correct?
Right.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's obviously the goal. Are they giving you value with these items? I'm not sure that they are. I guess maybe they are, because I guess some of their fans like to have a bunch of memorabilia and things like that.
I think they've had so much merch, and it's connected to each music release, or each album. It has like different merch, or the concerts have their own merch. There's all this different stuff related to the music, and so I think this is different in that it's each member, they decide the items themselves, and they're the ones who design it directly. So I think that's like one unique point to this set of merch. And also, it's like if they design it, then they have all sorts of footage that they can use as content. So I think they kind of did like two purposes with that. There's been like so much like other kinds of merch, just like song related and concert related. I think this changes it up a little for them.
I would never buy this merch. I don't know who the target audience is.
Well, that's one question I had.
I never buy merch.
Is if people would be deciding like, okay, do I want this? Would they base it on, do I want that item, or would they base it on like this is my favorite member, so I want what he designed?
And a lot of it is like a guitar pick. What if you don't play guitar? Pillow. I guess everyone could use a pillow. Pajamas. Everyone could use pajamas. What if you don't need that thing? What if you don't want that thing? Right?
It's almost not even a question, because once they go for sale, it's like sold out right away. So it's like you don't even get to make
they
it.
Sell it right. Well, I have a feeling they must not make enough then. They could easily make more.
Well, that's my question. Why didn't they just make a bunch of each thing? Then it wouldn't sell out.
They could even make it to order.
They should do that. They should just say, okay, merch drops today. It's all the stuff we talked about so far, and then next month another drop of another 100K of each, or whatever it is. I think they should have done that, because the stuff sold out super quick, like 1 minute.
I think they should just ask for money. I think they should have, they should have like tiered. I think the thing that people want most is they want to be able to buy good seats at concerts. They should just have like many tiers for the most loyal donors, and they get the best seats or something like that. So it's just a pure money thing, as there's no luck. I know people may think that's unfair, because then, rich people will be able to get the best seats. But hey, I mean, at the end of the day, rich people get the best seats anyway, because they can buy it on, second hand, or on, StubHub. This way, at least it's more predictable. And then if you really are a super fan, you can get something of real value to you. I don't think a pillowcase or a pillow is a real added value to your life, but getting a really good seat would be added value. So maybe you'd be willing to give them, I don't know, $50 a month, whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. Actually, that sounds like a lot. Jesus, $50 a month. I don't know. There's probably people who'd be willing to spend it.
Well, the Army membership, remember that was like 25
a year though.
For a year.
That's not even close to $50 a month.
They could probably do more with that, like make another tier or another two.
Yes,
tiers.
Exactly. And I just think that it should offer something that adds value.
Be like a Patreon.
Yeah, like a special set of videos that only certain tiers can access, or, you have a much higher likelihood of getting certain tickets, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know about these little knickknacks and things like that. And at the end of the day, I think it's just all just going to be junk that just collects in your home if you buy all this stuff. I'm sure that you would much rather spend money to get better seats at a concert or something.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. I do think some of the members are more creative, like they're more artistically inclined, like as far as designing things, than others. So maybe this was a good showcase for them to put it into a retail product, as opposed to just like, oh, I painted something and then, it was just, it happened and then that's it. I just have a painting now. Because like V, he designed his whole set of brooches. Like his was like, he drew it himself. So it's like it's literally designed by him. And then he had what he's calling a mute Boston bag, which like to me it looks like a handbag, but I guess it's meant to be for anyone because it seemed like all of the products were unisex. So I think it's meant for just anyone who wants to buy a nice bag. And so yeah, I think so. V's items, I thought they were really good at showcasing V's artistic, the way he draws things. Like fans have seen a lot of his like drawings and paintings and stuff, but this is something they can actually buy that has his design on it. And then you brought up the guitar pick, and that was one of Suga's designs. He made a guitar pick necklace and notepad set. So his were more on the definitely was his aesthetic more. It was like, okay, guitar picks, like he's very musically inclined, like he plays guitar, so that makes sense that it's a guitar pick as a necklace. And I was like, oh, that's different. I've never seen that before, so that's unique. And a notepad. He's someone who probably writes down lyrics a lot when he's producing, so that definitely represented him pretty well. And then the other one was RM's products, which he came up with a wind chime that had like a bell and like a fish pastry as the bottom part of the chime. So I was like, okay, I've never seen one that looked like that. Like most wind chimes are annoying and they're like the long metal pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also created jogger pants. I guess that's something he must wear a lot. So he was like, let me design the perfect jogger pants. But I think out of all the products, the wind chime would be the one thing like in 20 years or whatever would be like, oh, this was designed by a member of BTS and that someone still has. And it's like, oh, okay, that's very unique. Because like you wear clothes, you wear pajamas, it's going to get used, you know. It's like 20 years from now, that's not going to last. It's going to be just clothing that you wore. But like a wind chime, that would be something that lasts.
Are you really going to get a wind chime though? I mean, all right, who's going to get a wind chime?
Yeah.
A lot of people in Korea live in apartments too.
Right.
They don't have backyards necessarily.
You may not have a balcony, you may not have a window. But I did think that was the one thing that in a few decades, like, oh, if someone has that, it's like that would be a rare item. Whereas the other stuff, it'll be like used up and it's like, okay, you know, brooches aren't, well, maybe a brooch would last if it's like metal and you don't really like, it doesn't get damaged when you use it. But I was like, okay, pillows and pajamas, like, you know, people go through those. If they use them, they're going to get worn down. So I just thought it was like interesting which items they selected. And in the videos, they went through a lot of thought went into it. It's like, oh, I want it to be this exact color, or, you know, I want it to have pockets. I want it to have like this firmness, and, you know, this is too simple. This is too complicated. Like they actually had to have a lot of input in that. And I was surprised. I just thought they would just put anything out there. It's like, well, ARMY will buy it anyway, so it doesn't matter what it looks like. But it seemed like they at least looked like they cared about exactly the end product would be. I was surprised that V created a bag that's like a leather bag, because I was like, okay, that could potentially be super expensive. So I don't know if that's a good idea to make a bag like that. And
no, there's cheap leather. I
think it turned out that the price of it was like $168 or something. But I was expecting it to be like $1,200.
Why? Leather's not that expensive.
Leather isn't, but it's like a designer handbag.
It's not a designer handbag just because he designed it.
It's like, that's the question. It's like, what makes something designer? It's like,
if it's done by a luxury label, right? That's how colloquial it is used, right?
Right.
He's not a luxury label, so it's not designer.
I would argue that like BTS on a label is like almost, it's like a similar clout level almost as like a designer. Like I don't know what would be the difference really, you know?
Difference is perceived value. Things are only as valuable as people perceive it to be, right? If somebody else will buy something from you.
Yeah, I mean,
what does it cost to create a Birkin bag? $400?
Yeah, I mean the same.
It cannot be more than $400 for cost of goods and labor. Cannot be more than $400.
The same as it costs.
What is the retail?
Other things.
What is a retail of a Birkin bag? 24, 23,000, something like that.
Yeah, it's like 20 to 30K.
Yes. That's quite a markup there.
Which, like, I don't know why it's that much.
Perceived value.
Yeah.
If the perceived value was 100K, then they get 100K. Cost of goods don't go up.
Well, this is why I don't understand the what is that one bag? It's Louis Vuitton, but it's the one that's canvas.
Most of them are canvas.
I mean the basic one.
Speedy.
Yeah, I think the Speedy. It's like, why is that so expensive? It's made of canvas, so I don't.
I don't like Louis Vuitton. I've already talked about that before. It's not relevant here, but I don't like Louis Vuitton, and I don't think I wouldn't pay anything for them. But they have perceived value, and so yeah.
But sometimes with bags, I think, okay, some of the cost is the craftsmanship. Like it would be difficult to make a quality handbag.
No.
At a certain level.
Not to rag on China, but a lot of these bags are made in China now. What craftsmanship? Fine Italian or French craftsmanship. A lot of them are made in China. They don't even hide it. And when they do try to hide it, what they do is they make most of it in China and they ship it over to Italy and they slap it together like the last 5% of it and they say like put together in Italy or something.
That's true.
Or they just say manufactured, and I guess it's technically true, I guess.
That's the new.
Yeah.
That's the new loophole.
So what is this fine craftsmanship you're talking about?
Well, it used to be like the bag would be like an Italian fashion designer. Like the whole thing would be done in Italy by Italians, but now it's
maybe by hand or whatever. But number one, these things are rarely done by hand. A lot of it's done by machine. Number two, machines are good at doing things now. I mean, is it even inferior because it's done by a machine? Not necessarily. The idea that machines do things at an inferior level to humans is kind of archaic at this point. Humans can't even play like chess or Go better than machines. So what can we do better than machines, really? Almost nothing, honestly.
Well, the thing with machines is that you have to have a machine that does exactly that, because machines, they can't just do anything. True,
but I don't think there's a severe drop off in craftsmanship just because machine did a proportion of it or most of it. I just don't see that as a case in a lot of things. Back to the point though, perceived value. No one's running out to buy V's bag, so I don't know why you think it's going to be costing $1,200.
Well, I just thought like, okay, it's going to be a leather. It's going to be...
Leather doesn't mean anything. Like, again, leather doesn't mean anything. You can make a leather bag for like $70. If it's like the lowest grade of leather, it's just like the remnants pieced together and slapped together, and then they put some kind of like layer over it and they smooth it out and make it look like one piece when it's really not even one piece. That's how the lowest grade leather is made. It's just crap. Mm-hmm. It's like it was once cowhide, I guess, parts of it all thrown together.
Well, I thought for what the bag looked like when I saw the picture, I was like, okay, this could be anywhere from like $300 to $1,200, and I guess that was all.
Well, when it's new, good and bad leather look the same. It's only after years and years of use you can tell the difference.
What I did like about this whole exercise was that they had to present it in videos, and I don't know if you ever watched The Apprentice, but it was just like those episodes where they had to present products on QVC and try to sell them, and you had to like choose the right price point, and it's like, okay, if you make it too low, then you're not maximizing your profit, but if you make it too high, then maybe no one will buy it, and there's all these different factors in there. So
that would be more interesting to me than the actual product.
Yeah, I don't think they decided on the prices or not. They just did videos that were reminiscent of that to me. And I was like, oh, that reminded me. Yeah, The Apprentice. That was a good reality show. So far, only the 4 sets of items are out. And so I wanted to see what the rest of the items are. It's going to be like next week, I think, that we see what all the other stuff is. So there's a Reddit post that I saw, and the title of it was, "Idols Wearing Fur is Disappointing." And it's talking about idols in general, but since the clearest example of this is BTS. The Reddit poster focused on them, and it was talking about why are people more outraged about animals being used for meat and not so much about being used for fur, and why companies aren't criticized for this as much anymore. And it came about because this person saw on like J-Hope's Instagram post, he's wearing a mink fur hat from Louis Vuitton, and in a photo shoot, Jungkook wore a green Louis Vuitton sweater that was made of fur. And so, this poster's like upset that there's companies out there still using fur and they don't seem to care about that anymore. It does seem like the fashion industry just kind of does whatever they want still, even though talking about fur use used to be a huge deal like in the 80s and 90s, and it's not really brought up so much anymore.
I think that they can get away with it because you don't have to appeal to that many people. These are luxury goods. You don't have to appeal to a certain number of people.
Right.
You don't have to appeal to a broad swath of people, so you can go ahead and do. As far as my opinion goes, I wish people would wear less fur. Obviously, I wish people would eat less meat. At the end of the day, it is hard to reconcile that A, you have to kill animals for it, and B, there's just no way to do it efficiently at scale that isn't inhumane. I know a lot of times people say, let's do it in a way that's humane, but really at scale, it's almost impossible. The prices will go way, way up, and then that's a problem on that end. You'll have a lot of people up in arms over that. It's really, really hard. I read a little bit of this thread, and the only thing I will say, even though I agree in principle that, yeah, we should try to eat less meat, we should try to use less fur, and hey, use your power as a consumer however you want. If you don't want to consume stuff because people are wearing fur or they're promoting McDonald's, which has meat, then that's your right, of course, as a consumer. Then you go ahead and do that. But what I can't abide by is people who get on some moral high ground about fur and yet they still eat meat. Like, well, what are you doing? You eat meat. It's really hard for you to criticize. And like, the argument they try to put forth is like, well, that's different because people have to eat meat. Like, no, we don't have to eat meat.
Right. You could be a vegetarian.
You could be a vegetarian. And don't say, well, it's not healthy to be vegetarian. There's athletes who are vegans. You could. Especially if you're in a first world country, you would have the option. As you decline, you go down the ladder in wealth as far as your country and circumstance goes, then your options are more limited, obviously. But especially if you're in a first world country, and if you have a lot of time to post on Reddit, I'm going to assume you're from a first world country, you have the option. So you don't really have this moral high ground that you think you do. You eat meat, and there's not a huge amount of difference. And one could say, well, it's necessary to eat meat. I saw someone say it's necessary. It's not necessary to eat meat, right? Or it's wasteful to use fur because you absolutely don't have to use fur. Well, what about fat people who eat meat? Is it not wasteful? They clearly could eat less of it. I'm not even asking them to never eat it, but clearly you could eat less of everything you eat, right? Mm-hmm. So therefore, all the meat you eat, most of the meat you eat is by definition wasteful because you don't need to. You having any complaints about that? Oh, I don't think so. And here's the other problem with it. It doesn't even matter what our rationale, what our motive is in killing these animals, like for consumption, whether it be meat or fur, or going back to an earlier topic for scientific testing. It doesn't matter. Put yourself in the shoes of the animal. You exist. Now you're in a farm or a lab. They're really inhumane, terrible conditions. Bad stuff happens to you, and then you're killed. Does it really make a difference to you what the motives were of the people who did the killing?
Right.
Are you really gonna say, well, they did all this stuff, and my life was very, very unpleasant, torturous, just pure pain, but at least it was so there could be food, or at least it was so I could do some testing that was really necessary. That you wouldn't care. You wouldn't care. It's like it's still terrible.
Yeah.
Right? So it really doesn't matter. From my perspective, it doesn't matter because it's equally painful, equally torturous for the animal no matter what.
Yeah. But I do think people view killing animals for the fur as like, well, there's no point to that. We don't need clothing with fur on it, anymore.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to assert. It doesn't matter if there's a point.
Right.
It doesn't matter if there's a point. It doesn't matter if the cause is good. It doesn't matter to the animal, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, at least if we stopped the killing for fur, like that eliminates X number of deaths that had to happen,
It does, but it would also eliminate X number of deaths that have to happen if people weren't fat. We would consume a lot less food, right? A lot less animals would need to be killed for us to consume, correct? Or we could be vegetarians. We could do all of those things. I don't view food and fur on different moral planes is what I'm trying to say. So even though I would prefer that people not wear fur, it would be nice if they refrain from it. Since I eat meat, I'm not going to judge them too harshly because I do something that tortures and kills animals just like they do something that tortures and kills animals. Maybe J-Hope thinks he was wearing that for a good reason. Maybe he thinks that wearing that fur hat is just as valid a reason as me eating dinner, right? That's a matter of opinion, I would think. That's subjective. We both have our reasons, and we both can have subjective views as to which reasons are more valid. But at the end of the day, those reasons didn't matter a whit to those animals that had to die. So I don't think one is morally superior or inferior to the other. And so since I do something that nets the same effect as people who wear fur, I can't really judge people who wear fur that harshly. Right? I can only ask them to maybe reconsider. Mm-hmm. But they can turn around and ask me to reconsider eating meat, which would be totally fair, entirely fair.
Right.
And I have considered that. I have considered like reducing my intake of meat for that very same reason. But is it zero? No. So can I have such a strident view of whether other people wearing fur is morally correct or not? And I don't think so. I think that the best we can do is just encourage people to move their behavior towards what we consider more ideal. And if they don't agree, then oh well too. People don't have to agree with you. But hopefully they do agree. And if they do, then I would say approaching it that way would probably yield better results as opposed to getting on a high horse and dictating to them or preaching to them that they're doing something wrong. But everything I do is okay.
Right.
Because it's not.
The poster was like, well, what I do isn't really the point of this post.
Yeah.
But it's like what everyone does is the point of it. It's like we all should reduce animal usage in anything, if we're going to be principled about it. And probably if you're going to approach fashion designers, like, okay, ask them, hey, could you not use fur in your future designs? But then if you want to ask people to eat less meat, then you have to bring about, the ethical argument, the health argument, here's the alternatives you could eat instead.
That's my argument. Nobody really does behave in a principled way. We all have our blind spots. We all have areas where we are being hypocrites, right? Mm-hmm. If we're going to be taking a hard black and white stance. There's very few people who don't consume any kind of animal product at all.
Right.
How many of you eat meat? How many of you wear leather?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things. How many of you eat like gummy candy? That has animal products in it.
Right. Has gelatin.
And so very few of us are totally principled. I don't think there's any value to trying to maintain this level of purity or principle and also dictating to other people who fail to meet some imaginary level that you think that you're at, but they're not. That's not going to convince people to do what you want them to do. I think the idea of being principled should just be thrown out the window. I think people should just aim for behaving optimally. What's optimal, right? We want to reduce animal consumption, and how do we do that? I don't think it's by labeling some people good and some people bad. There's better ways to encourage and even manipulate people into more optimal behavior.
Right.
And it has nothing to do with principle. And it has nothing to do with saying, I'm a principled person and you're not. I don't think that achieves anything. I really don't.
Yeah, I think like the easy route is to just say, hey, let's get mad at Louis Vuitton and like flood their mentions with like bad comments, or even like even worse, like, let's blame BTS because they shouldn't be representing a brand that uses fur. It's like they had no say in that, in the design of the product.
If every person in America didn't eat meat for 1 day a week, let's say they ate meat for 7 days a week, which I think most Americans do, eat meat every single day of their lives. I think that's pretty common, okay? If they just took 1 day off, that would save a lot more animals than Louis Vuitton doing anything.
Then, like, hey, let's cancel Louis Vuitton.
How many mink hats do they even make?
They probably didn't even make that many. It's just like for the couture line.
I can't imagine they made that many. How many people are going to buy it?
Yeah.
So, really, I think it's just... and therefore, you making a big issue out of the mink hat, is that behaving optimally? Because you're really attacking something that on the scale wise it's very small, and you're ignoring much larger issues if your concern really is animal welfare, right?
Right.
You should. There's just such bigger issues to tackle, and no, just trust me. Nobody has a principled position. If anybody says they are, then you can pretty much assume they're being a hypocrite.
Yeah, I think you're right. People, instead of getting mad at all these certain people that are doing the wrong thing, like, kind of look at yourself. Like, what can you reduce? So I came across an article, and it was about how BTS and Blackpink Spotify streams add to the climate change problem. And of course that title was like, what? It's like, that doesn't even make sense. And it was a pretty ridiculous article, but the point of it was that the energy used to stream songs, and then they named BTS and Blackpink as the top K-pop artists, it adds to climate change because of all of the carbon emissions due to the energy that is used to stream. And then, of course, the energy, as we know, most of it comes from burning fossil fuels. And so the article did a terrible job explaining that, but basically that was the point of it, is like playing things on Spotify, causes more climate change. And it's like, it's just pretty silly, because it's like, okay, anything causes climate change. It's like living our lives causes climate change because everything uses energy. So I just thought, okay, this is this total clickbait. It's like, why even mention BTS and Blackpink? Because they're not even like the number 1 and 2 artists on streaming platforms on Spotify. There's American artists that are even more popular, or Bad Bunny, I think, is what they said on the Spotify Wrapped is the most popular artist. But I think this writer was like Tamar Herman. I guess she only writes about K-pop, so that's who has to be criticized for this. So I just thought it was kind of ridiculous, because it's not like, okay, let's stop listening to music then, or what are we supposed to take away from that? Or are we supposed to like plant trees in proportion to how many songs we stream? Because like that's not an answer either. It's like, are we supposed to feel guilty for listening to music because that caused more climate change? Because this is just like all of our modern lives use energy. So I don't know there's no answer to this. They're trying to
No, there's no answer.
They're trying to shame people.
I don't even know they're trying to shame people. It's just clickbait. It's just a title that draws people in. They'll look at it and say, whoa, really? How's that related? And that's what I thought at first too. I said, there's no way that's related. And also the article does do a terrible job. It says, here's how it increases carbon footprint, but it never says how. It just says it does. I had to look up other articles to understand how it does.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's energy or whatever. And I said, well, but how much does it do it?
Yeah.
And it's the article said something like this many trees. I'm like, that's a dumb way to measure it. What? It's carbon footprint. What are you talking about? Why don't you talk about footprint? Anyway, I looked up some other articles that made it clear. So, like you said, it does have a carbon footprint. I mean, it uses energy. There's one estimate in this other article that I had to look up that said that a popular song like Olivia Rodrigo's, whatever her popular song was last year, has the same carbon footprint as 500 people over a year. And I looked at that and I thought, Okay, but that song was streamed at 1.2 billion times on Spotify.
Right, we got a lot of listens out of it.
Right? And then it's like the song is 4 minutes. So that's like, that's like 6 billion minutes. That's a lot of days and years.
Yeah, imagine the enjoyment people got out of those many minutes.
Right? And it only has the same carbon footprint as 500 people living a year. 500 people is not that many. And that was a huge song. So the total amount of carbon footprint of all streaming doesn't even sound that big. What is it, like 30,000 people living a year? That's not even that many people. What are you talking about? And second of all, I think in their calculation, they ignored that people often save music to their phones. They don't stream every single time they listen to a song.
Right.
I save, the vast majority of songs I listen to are saved on my phone. They're downloaded to my phone. I don't stream every single, there's not like data moving back and forth, right?
Right.
And then don't tell me, well, the phone power counts. It's like the phone would be on, realistically, the phone would have been on anyway. People would be looking at something else.
Yeah.
They probably would be downloading other stuff too. So to say that this is not just going to be replaced by other usage, I think is dumb.
But the other thing I was thinking of is like, okay, well, people played music before streaming existed, and I'm sure that used energy too. It's like playing your CD.
Oh, it did, but the article also said that carbon footprint went up since then because people listen to more music. Okay. Even though streaming per listen does take less of carbon footprint, people listen to more music these days because it's so easy to.
Okay, well, at least it sounds like we're being energy efficient about it, though.
It's efficient, but we just do so much more of it, right? But then here's the other thing that they don't consider, okay? It's like, well, each listen is more energy efficient. It was really inefficient to make CDs, to make records, to ship those things from here to there. Big carbon footprint, right? So now, per listen, it's much smaller. But we listen to so much more music that the overall music listening carbon footprint has increased. But here's what they are not factoring in. Here's why it's difficult to even talk about things like carbon footprint or calculating things like this. There's just so many things to consider. And in this article that I read, they didn't consider that. Okay, so if people are listening to music so often, that means they're not doing some other stuff. There's other stuff they're not doing.
Right.
It's potentially true that the other things they're not doing also have a carbon footprint.
Right.
It's potentially true that the things they're not doing have a greater carbon footprint, right? It's actually possible. What if people sit at home and listen, stream music and videos all day and just sit in their room and they're like, wow, I'm going to calculate the carbon footprint of that and then express it by a number of trees, and it'll seem like a big number and that will scare you or something. Okay, but what if I told you that in 1960, instead of sitting at home listening to your streams, right, people got in a gas-guzzling car and drove around.
Yeah. They just went on a nice drive.
Yeah, just because they felt like it.
Yeah, that was what people did for fun.
And gas was cheap. So it doesn't matter that you only get 15 miles per gallon. So what kind of carbon footprint are you looking at then for an hour or two of fun? I don't have to calculate it. It's much larger than it would be if you just sat in your room streaming BTS, okay? So this idea that, well, it has this X amount of carbon footprint, isn't that scary? Compared to what? What does it replace? What does it not replace? These are all really complicated questions. The only thing you can be assured of, basically, is that your carbon footprint would be less if you're dead. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing, or never existed. That's really the only thing can be pretty much guaranteed. I'm not even sure that's the truth. I mean, maybe like human civilization would somehow consume more to compensate for your not existing. I don't know. Maybe it's true, but it's not more complicated than just calculating the amount of energy used for a thing, and then the number of times the number of people times the number of times, et cetera, et cetera. It's way more complicated than that. So it's not the type of thing. It's not the type of calculation you can make on the back of a napkin. Let's put it that way. Yeah. You know, the type, and when I say that, what that means is, you know, just like a quick calculation, any old lay person like us that we can make, which is like how many minutes, how many years, blah blah blah. Like, okay, now I got a good sense. No, you don't, because you don't have like you haven't factored every single little thing in. So don't act like you really, really know the impact of X or Y.
Yeah. When we're talking about things like climate change, where it's like there's many, many factors, and it's like you're trying to put together an equation that factors in what the whole world is doing. It's like it's very hard to have any kind of concrete statements from that. So when you see articles like this, it's just like, okay, this is silly. This no one's gonna like not listen to BTS or Blackpink because they're afraid it might affect climate change, and then 30 years from now we'll be like 1 degree hotter on Earth. It's like that's just silly. This is just like trying to scare people. So we talked about this in the last episode, but if you recall, SM created a girl group that has members from all its current girl groups, and then since last week they had released a single called Step Back, and they had an MV which I believe was filmed at the recent SM online concert, and since it was like a stage video, it was just basically them singing and doing choreography. It wasn't like a full like MV, but it was just like a performance video. And now that I've listened to the song a few times, I was like, okay, I like the song. I remember it. I think it's a good song, and that SM did a good job selecting one for this group. And I think it worked for me, like as a group, as a song. What did you think of the product?
I enjoyed it. I thought I would, and I did. I knew they were going to go for Girl Crush. I knew it was basically Blackpink, but SM.
Yeah.
What can you say? It hit most of the notes that you're looking for. One problem I will say with it is it's not a real problem because this is K-pop, as we've talked before. I didn't like the slow break. Like, this interlude is really off-putting.
Right. They really changed the tempo at that.
I don't know, just to showcase the better singers like Wendy. I have no idea why. I feel like the song was made to be seen more than listened to, though. Mm-hmm. It really doesn't work as well without the video. And I don't like how some K-pop songs give you that sense. It's made to be seen as a video and consumed that way. It's not really made to be consumed as a song. Mm-hmm. The other problem I had with it was, well, no, it's not really a problem, but they don't have a good English rapper. And really, that's kind of a problem that all groups have except for Blackpink. Blackpink is the only group that has a really good English rapper, and that's going to be rare.
Who is the rapper? Is it Karina? I forget which person was doing the rapping.
Isn't Winter a rapper?
Oh, maybe. Maybe it was Winter.
I just feel that it hurts the sort of the Western appeal of it. So it can't really be Blackpink without that really killer English rap. Mm-hmm. You know, and you can't have that unless you have a good English speaker, and not just a good English speaker, a good English rapper like Lisa. So
right, like they had
English
words in there, but not in the rap part.
Right, I don't think. But at the same time, that doesn't bother me too much. That's not like I just dismiss it as garbage because of that, and it doesn't bother me that it's not as good as a Blackpink song necessarily. First of all, it's their first song, and second, it doesn't have to be as good. There's no rule that it has to be. And it doesn't bother me if they just aren't as good, period, as Blackpink or any other group or Everglow. None of that matters to me. And I don't know why that seems to matter to some people. They think, wow, this group is not as good as this other group. It's like, what difference does it make? Did you enjoy the song?
Well, K-pop fans are competitive.
It's like, but are you only able to, like, is there a law that you can listen to the top 5 groups in the world or something?
Right.
Why don't you just consume all of the music? It just adds variety. I would love for there to be more groups that produce good music. It doesn't matter that they're of varying levels of quality. As long as they're all good and enjoyable to listen to, then all of that adds to my experience. It doesn't cost my Spotify subscription stays the same price no matter how many songs and groups I listen to. So I would love for there to be tons of good groups. I'm not just going to listen to one or two just because they're the best. Mm-hmm. But I do get the sense that some people are like that. They're like, well, this one's not as good as the other one, so why would I even listen to this?
Yeah.
That's so weird to me. That's like saying, oh, I have 2 favorite foods in the world, so what's even the point of eating any food besides these?
Yeah.
Like, because you want variety, because you just don't feel like your favorite food? this day, every single day.
Because you never know, that might be better. This new thing.
Wouldn't you like for there to be tons of tasty foods for you to eat in this world? And even if they're not your favorite, you'd have them occasionally. Wouldn't that be nice? That's kind of the view I take with music, and I would imagine that's how everyone views food. So you can easily apply that same sort of thinking to music, right? Although I will say that years ago, I knew this weirdo, okay, who actually viewed food this way. He was like, he was this big fat guy, and he like ate corn dogs every day. And I don't know if you understand what that is. It's a terrible, terrible food. It's like something you eat at a baseball game. Okay, it's like a hot dog on a stick, and it has breading all over it. It rarely tastes good. But that's all he ate every single day. And I noticed that's all you eat every single day. And I asked him, hey, you want to try something new today? And then he said, no. I said, you eat corn dogs every day. Don't you want to try something new? And he said, what if it doesn't taste as good as a corn dog? And I thought, this is truly a weirdo. What is, I don't understand that at all. And that's even worse than the people who listen to a K-pop song and then decide it's not as good as another K-pop song. He wouldn't even try it. He would be
not even open to that.
Yeah, the analog would be he likes BTS, so he refuses to even listen to other groups ever. He won't even hear 1 second of it, just in case it's not as good. Because why waste that time? He could have just listened to BTS one more time in his life. That's literally how this guy thought. He probably, died of heart disease by now or something. But
no, but at least if someone only listens to BTS, at least they're getting a lot of good music. Like if he's listening to something bad just continuously.
True, but in fairness to him, he did feel corn dogs were very good food.
Oh,
he felt that way. It was wrong, but he felt that way. He felt that was like the pinnacle of cuisine, and there's no need to even risk trying another food. I made that argument too. I thought, what if this other thing's, you don't even know what it tastes like? What if sushi is going to be your new favorite food? Or it doesn't even have to be that weird, just like other dishes. And I said, I don't want to risk it. Risk what? How many meals are you going to have in your life?
There's only a set number.
It is only a set number, but it's a lot. I think he can use one to try some different food to see if he likes it.
Yeah. Step outside.
But food is kind of how I view K-pop. You just the more good stuff there is out there, the better. It doesn't bother me that one is not necessarily as good as another, as long as it's worthwhile. Right?
Yeah. I will give, the new songs that come out, I'll at least try to listen for 30 seconds. I'm like, okay, do I like this? Even if it's a group I never heard of. That's what I try to do. Is like, I will give whoever a chance. And so when you watch the video, I was surprised. Like, who did you think stood out? Because I was not expecting. I thought they were going to focus on Boa a lot because they made it seem like, okay, she's the most, legendary idol out of all of them. Mm-hmm. But she did seem to be the focus when I watched them perform. It seemed like Taeyeon, she was the one with the silver hair, right? I thought she was a big focus. She stood out,
but then that's because her hair color is different. I think it's just her hair. I don't think any particular person stood out.
I thought she stood out. I thought Wendy's voice stood out a lot, and Seulgi had good facial expressions.
Well, yeah, Wendy's the best singer.
Yeah. And then the girl with the pink hair, I think she's a Girls' Generation person. She really stood out, maybe because of her hair, but I thought she was very, very dynamic.
All you can hope for is more product.
I did feel like Winter kind of, maybe it's like her lack of experience or whatever, but I felt like she was kind of too neutral. Like, she didn't really change her face, but I think maybe that's just her persona. Is this is like very, very neutral.
Well, isn't she the nepotism girl?
That might have been Giselle.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I didn't get tons of stage presence from her, but then, okay, everybody can't be just all, the focus of attention. But I think as a group, they were good. There wasn't anyone who was like, standing out too much. They felt like a group, like they meshed together pretty well. So have to think that they probably practiced a lot because they were all seemed to be similar levels of dancing and vocal performance. So yeah, I think this project turned out pretty well, and congrats to SM on that.
Yeah.
Thank you to our guest, Morgan. You can listen to BTS Happy Hour on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms, or visit btshappyhour.com. They've just recently added podcast ratings to Spotify. If you like the show, please take a moment to rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. New episodes weekly. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Weverse. If you've listened all the way to the end of the episode, congratulations on being a true fan of the podcast. And in honor of artist-made merch, comment with a handbag emoji on our latest Instagram post. Until next time, this has been BTS Happy Hour. Thanks for listening, and make every hour a happy one.